What the fuck? Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. A bit of a morning update on the disingenuous tactics that IGN are using to carry water for Amazon. More specifically, the Rings of Power and the supposedly review bombing that's going on. Now, as I said in a previous video, there is probably a level of review bombing that's going on with this show, because that's the internet and people will do what they do on the internet, and we can't get away from that. I think they know that as well, but the idea that it's all review bombing and people just don't particularly like the show, again, is incredibly disingenuous and also a bit disrespectful as well to actual fans of Lord of the Rings that have gripes with the show. Let's get into the article. Review bombing by internet trolls. Did they come out the gate strong with that? Has become a huge problem and has caused sites like Rotten Tomatoes to show user scores for films and movies that are far lower than they should be. According to who? Again, this is the distraction tactics that they will use. Anybody with a low IQ will probably read that far lower than they should be and get the idea that IGN are effectively trying to convince people into thinking that. People will read that and get the idea that IGN are trying to convince people into thinking that the show is doing a lot better than it is by saying disingenuous things like that. How to combat the problem? Amazon has introduced a new delay tactic. Delay. That's a distraction tactic, guys. We all know what this is at this point. For its new shows like not The Lord of the Rings of Power, fan fiction Lord of the Rings. As reported by Variety, Amazon first debuted this new initiative for a league of their own, with it delayed all user reviews for 72 hours. Now, they can put that in there and say that they used it for a show before The Rings of Power. But again, anybody with two brain cells to rub together can see that that is what you would say to prepare yourself for the shitstorm that's coming with disgruntled fans of your made-up fan fiction. Of course you would use that, because anybody that had any sort of investment in the company would use that. Going on, trolls love to be the first to tear something down, and the hope, it seems, is that the initial hurdle will be enough to deter them from coming back. It won't. It won't at all. All articles like this do is pour fuel onto the fire, and you piss people off more. You piss off the review bombers, and you piss off the trolls, of course, and you give them the opportunity and the ammunition to want to come back and completely try and destroy this show, ratings and review-wise. But you also piss off the true fans as well. You put yourself in a position where you are labelling fans who have disgruntled views of the show in with the review bombers and trolls. And that can never go well for a show that you're pinning on being the biggest and best thing that Amazon have ever put out. Certainly the most expensive. Furthermore, Amazon is planning to evaluate each critique to determine whether it's genuine or a forgery created by a bot, troll, or other breed of digital goblin. Now, again, all that means is they're going to spend time to start fluffing the numbers. They're going to spend a bit of time to go through each individual review, and even people with proper gripes with the show, like you and I, if we were to leave a review, they would look at that review and go, no, let's just leave the 4 or 5-star reviews in. Because that's what they're determined to do. They want to fluff this up to be the greatest thing that they've ever released. Almost like a protection of investment, considering they spent over $1 billion. So, IGN continues, it appears to have worked. As a league of their own currently has a review score on Prime Video of 4.3 stars, 80% of users voting 5 stars and only 40% of users voting 1 star. I call bullshit. I call bullshit. The idea that you have done something like this in the past, a 72-hour review embargo, and on the other end of it, all we're seeing is mostly 5 stars and a small percentage of 1 stars, tells me exactly what you need to know about what big global mega corporations will do to protect investments. They fluff numbers. They go out and they use whatever disingenuous and nefarious tactics that they need to fluff numbers. And they will do this with their own shows to protect investments. They will use it under the guise of blaming trolls and review bombers. A League of Their Own currently has an 85% user score on Rotten Tomatoes, so this new initiative will really be put to the test when user reviews are allowed for The Lord of the Rings of Power. As user reviews for the series are currently sitting at 39%. Now, user reviews are obviously the likes of me and you, the general public. People with no real vested interest in a professional sense like a critic, albeit some of us are critics on the internet, but it's different than being a critic in the mainstream access media, of course. We have gripes with the show, and 39% user scores show that. Now, they're going to go in and they're going to start to really rip that apart, and they're going to start to fluff those numbers up. Like I said in a previous video, ignore that, because that doesn't mean fuck all. That critic review score is usually fluffed up by access to these shows. So they're going to give higher scores because it helps to build their brands and careers. While not all reviews have been stellar for The Lord of the Rings of Power, its user review scores on sites like Rotten Tomatoes does seem to be a bit low. Now, it's almost like they're believing the fact that the show should be a lot better or should score a lot higher with the general public. These sorts of disingenuous distraction tactics that they use in articles like this, they're designed to make people think, oh, well, maybe the show's better than what it actually is. And in reality, we all know different. And so don't fall for it, guys. Don't fall for any of this or any of these articles that big corporations like IGN that do have the power to look at these shows and use these shows to fluff up their own corporations by giving positive reviews and positive articles, or articles that try and make you believe that things aren't as bad as they are with the show. Don't believe them. They're designed that way. They're designed to make you think about the show differently. They're designed to pull the wool over your eyes, effectively. In our review of the first 2 episodes of The Lord of the Rings of Power, we said that the show may take it a little while as its stride, but once it does, again, seems to be a bit low, but once it does, it immerses us in a gorgeous fantasy world with a great ensemble, several intriguing subplots. Now, that smacks of an article that in some way, shape or form has a vested interest in this show doing very well. And again, it's IGN, and IGN's not particularly known for being a bastion of truth in a lot of ways. You know, IGN years ago stood for something, and now it feels like they just will go along with what the media narrative is to fluff up their companies, and more power to them. That's fine. Or anybody with half a fucking brain cell can read through all this and see that it isn't that way at all. So anyways, what do you think, guys? What do you think about this article on IGN? Do you think that they get anything right? Do you think they get anything wrong? Do you think, like me, that they're being very disingenuous? Leave a comment and let's have a chat about it. Let's see what we all think about this. And if there's any other articles that you think I should cover on this channel, send me a message. Send me a message on Twitter on the Carbon, or leave me a comment and we'll have a look and we'll see where we go from there. Anyways, guys, thanks for your time. If you could give us a like and a subscribe, that would be very much appreciated. My next video is probably going to go up at lunchtime. I'm going to be covering another article in depth. If you got anything from this, guys, as I said, give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.